The usual rush of a Los Angeles morning had taken over the city again. The streets were loud, people were in a hurry. But that morning, Olivia Bennett's heart wasn't racing from stress, it was beating with something unfamiliar. She was only in her early 20s, yet she was already the CEO of a massive construction empire. In her final year of college, she bounced between board meetings in the morning and lectures in the afternoon. For Olivia, success wasn't optional, it was survival. Freedom? That still felt like a distant dream. That same morning, a young man was also about to live one of the most important days of his life. Nathan Carter, one of the university's top students, was starting his internship at Bennett and Company, under none other than CEO Olivia Bennett herself. But fate had other plans. Nathan was running late. He rushed through the security gates and toward the revolving door, only for his bag to slip from his hand. Papers flew everywhere. And then bam, he crashed into someone. A sharp shoulder bump, the click of heels coming to a sudden stop. "Are you blind?" Olivia snapped, her voice sharp but calm. But as their eyes met, her words froze midair. There was something in his gaze, a warmth, a kind of honesty that disarmed her. "I'm so sorry. It's my first day," Nathan stammered, kneeling to gather the papers. "Really sorry." For a second, Olivia forgot to breathe. On such a chaotic morning, she had never expected to meet someone who could warm her heart so suddenly. When Nathan stood up and handed her the papers, it wasn't just documents he gave her, it was the beginning of something much bigger. Olivia reached out her hand. "I'm Olivia, CEO." Nathan gave a shy smile. "Nathan, your new intern." And in that moment, time seemed to pause. Something stirred inside Olivia's chest. She had long given up on love, but this small accident felt like the start of something new. Still, the real collision wouldn't happen until that night at the university party. And when it did, it wouldn't just be hearts colliding, but destinies. Toot out if you enjoyed this story. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. With every new episode, we follow the path of rebirth together. Olivia Bennett grew up in a luxurious mansion nestled among the sunny hills of Los Angeles, surrounded by glass towers and designer perfection. Her father, Charles Bennett, was the head of one of the largest construction companies in the country. Her mother, Vivian, was the queen of high society, always front row at galas, the best dressed in every magazine spread. From the outside, Olivia's life looked flawless. She attended a prestigious university, had a private chauffeur, and spent her summers on the coastlines of Europe. She was also the CEO of her father's company, unaware of the scandal that was about to break. But that morning, everything changed. The doorbell rang early, just as the sun was rising. Vivian was sipping her coffee. Olivia was upstairs, admiring a new dress in front of her vanity. But when the door opened, it wasn't the usual house staff. It was two FBI agents in dark suits. "Is your daughter home, Mrs. Bennett?" one of them asked in a clipped, formal tone. From that moment on, silence was replaced by shock and panic. Charles Bennett was taken into custody, accused of embezzlement, fraud, and manipulating millions through forged documents and fake investments. News crews swarmed their estate. The company's accounts were frozen. The mansion was sealed off. The life Olivia had known, lavish, controlled, untouchable, was suddenly dragged through the mud. Vivian treated it like a temporary setback. She had a clear plan: introduce Olivia to another wealthy heir, someone untouched by scandal. That way, she could restore the family name, the status, the lifestyle. "A girl is only as powerful as she is beautiful," her mother always said. But Olivia, she was done being part of a hollow world. Still, she found herself in glittering gowns at glittering parties, surrounded by hollow conversations and plastic smiles. Every man her mother introduced looked at her the same way, like she was a prize to be won, not a person to know. Tired and disillusioned, she ended up at a college party. And that's where she saw him again, Nathan Carter. Later that night, when the music faded and the crowd thinned, they were alone. Olivia only remembered fragments: a laugh, a warmth, a blur of something that felt safe. And then darkness. But Nathan? He remembered everything. Olivia's life had completely fallen apart after her father's arrest. The mansion was emptied. Reporters followed her every move. And though she still went to college, she now slipped in through the back entrance, avoiding eye contact with anyone. Her name had become a symbol of shame across headlines. Friends kept their distance. Professors avoided her gaze. And in the middle of this downfall, The only person who stayed close was Brandon Scott. Brandon entered her life almost mysteriously after her family's collapse. He was someone from her mother Vivian's social circle, charming smile, expensive suits, always knowing exactly what to say. He seemed helpful, found Olivia a scholarship, suggested lawyers to her mom, even offered financial support for her father's bail. But behind those kind gestures, there was a web, and the spider at the center was Brandon himself. To Vivian, Brandon was a savior. To Olivia, he was just support at first. But over time, his presence became something else, a condition, then a chain. In a desperate attempt to clear her father's name, to save what was left of the company, and help her mother return to high society, Olivia made a deal. She married Brandon. It wasn't love. It was an escape. But Olivia slowly realized that even the security Brandon offered couldn't fill the emptiness she carried inside. The glamorous parties, the elite circles, the luxury lifestyle. None of it drowned out the one sound echoing in her chest: silence. Years passed. Olivia became known in magazines as Brandon Scott's elegant wife. From the outside, her life looked perfect. But inside, she was still that frozen young woman from the morning the FBI knocked on their door. Then one day, the past walked in through a boardroom door. Nathan Carter, now an international tech investor, had been invited to a meeting. His company was interested in partnering on Brandon's latest megaproject. And the moment he stepped into the room, Olivia recognized him. The years had changed him, but his eyes were exactly the same. Nathan saw her too. In the middle of the crowd, he only focused on her. Their eyes met, and time stopped. In that moment, Olivia felt everything she had buried for years rise to the surface. Somewhere deep inside her, she still loved Nathan, but she was another man's wife now. Brandon's wife. The man who represented safety, power, control. Nathan's return stirred a storm inside Olivia. What was real? The life Brandon had built for her? Or the freedom she once dreamed of but never dared to chase with Nathan? Nathan's return stirred something inside Olivia, something she had buried so deep, she almost forgot it existed. The shadow of that night years ago was no longer just a whisper. It had become a steady, undeniable thump in her chest. But their closeness didn't stay hidden for long. Brandon always liked control. Over people, over appearances. And Olivia? She was the crown jewel in the life he'd carefully built. So when he caught that first lingering glance between her and Nathan, he didn't make a scene. He just smiled, calmly. But behind that smile burned a quiet, calculated rage. One night, he called Olivia to his office. The curtains were drawn. Only the dim glow of a desk lamp lit the room. "I have something to tell you," Brandon said, stepping slowly behind the desk. "It's about your father. There's a lot you still don't know." Then he dropped a stack of documents on the table, documents that would shatter Olivia's world. Illegal wire transfers, forged construction permits, screenshots of threats, all signed off with her father's name. Brandon didn't just have leverage over Olivia, he held her entire family's legacy in his grip. "If you ever see that man again," he whispered, cold and venomous, "I'll make sure all of this goes public. Your mother will lose the last of her reputation. And you'll spend the rest of your life not just haunted by your past, but dragged through courtrooms trying to survive it." In the silence that followed, it felt like Olivia could hear a chain tightening around her. Brandon was no longer just her husband. He was her warden. But hell has layers. And Olivia was about to fall deeper. There was another shadow lurking, one she had ignored for too long. Her half-brother Lucas. From their father's first marriage, he had always been quiet, watchful, too watchful. At first, Olivia thought it was just protective sibling energy. But now, she wasn't so sure. Nathan's reappearance triggered something in Lucas. His jealousy wasn't just intense, it was obsessive, possessive. And then, Olivia disappeared. She woke up in an unfamiliar room. Locked in. No windows. Just a door. And behind it, Lucas's voice. "I'm only trying to protect you," he said gently. "That man, he'll hurt you. Just like our father hurt my mother." And in that moment, Olivia saw it clearly. Lucas came from obsession, raised by a mother broken by love, and now consumed by his own version of it. And she was caught in the crossfire. This wouldn't be an escape. This had to be a resistance. Not just to Brandon, not just to Lucas, but to the silence, the fear, and the life others kept trying to write for her. This time, Olivia would write her own story. When Lucas's behavior finally crossed a line that could no longer be ignored, Olivia moved quietly, but decisively. The fear she had buried for so many years had taught her something: how to survive. Lucas was committed to a secure psychiatric facility, and for the first time in a long while, Olivia could breathe. But freedom wasn't just about escaping her brother's shadow. The real shadow still lived beside her. Brandon. Digging through the remnants of her father's old files, Olivia uncovered the very documents Brandon once used to silence her evidence of his own illegal dealings. The signatures meant to trap her now became weapons to corner him. Olivia filed a lawsuit against Brandon's company. And this time, she wasn't alone. Nathan had stood by her through her darkest hours. He funded the legal fight, brought in his own legal team, and most of all, taught Olivia how to believe in herself again. When she met his eyes across the courtroom, she no longer felt like someone hiding in the shadows. She was finally standing tall. Nathan didn't look at her like a relic of the past. He looked at her like a future worth fighting for. But to Brandon, this wasn't just about losing a woman. It was about losing his power, his grip, his empire. And Brandon? He wasn't the kind of man to accept defeat. Then, one night, Olivia vanished. Just hours before a key hearing, no one could reach her. Nathan's gut twisted with panic. And then smoke started rising from the old Bennett estate. As the fire devoured the night, Nathan didn't hesitate. He ran straight into the flames. Olivia was locked in an upstairs room. The windows were shattered. The walls were swallowing flames. But Nathan only had one thought. Was she still alive? When he broke through the door, he found her eyes wide with fear and disbelief. He pulled her into his arms and tried to guide her down the stairs. But just as they reached the ground floor, a burning beam collapsed. Nathan threw himself over Olivia to shield her. What followed was a blur of sirens, screams, and the stench of smoke and burnt skin. Nathan was critically injured, unconscious. And Olivia? She was no longer waiting in a courtroom. She was waiting in a hospital room, clinging to his hand, whispering through tears, "Take anything you want. Just don't take him from me." And in that moment, one thing became crystal clear to Olivia. True victory wasn't about surviving a burning mansion. It was about rebuilding what truly mattered: hearts, hope, and a life worth living. Months passed. Time didn't fix everything, but it redrew the lines. Nathan survived, but the look in his eyes had changed. It wasn't just love anymore. It was the depth of someone who had fought hard to stay alive. And when he finally woke up, the first thing he saw was Olivia's eyes. The first thing he heard was her voice. "I didn't leave. I won't leave." Brandon was arrested. The empire he had built on lies crumbled, brought down by Olivia's evidence and witness testimonies. The media swarmed to report his fall. But Olivia? She stayed silent. Because her real victory hadn't happened in a courtroom. It happened in the quiet war she fought within herself. Vivian was tried too. The years of silence, the secrets she masked with glimmering parties, justice caught up with them. Olivia didn't forgive her. But she didn't hold on to hatred either. Some ties don't snap. They simply unravel. And that's exactly what happened. She didn't reclaim her father's legacy. Maybe she didn't want to. She had already carved out her own path. Rising from the ashes, Olivia built something new. A design and architecture firm, not just a business, but a purpose. It offered scholarships to women, internships to students, and jobs to survivors of abuse and injustice. It wasn't just about buildings. It was about rebuilding lives. Her relationship with Nathan didn't rush, it grew. With patience, with trust, they rediscovered each other. Olivia wasn't with Nathan because she needed him. She was with him because she chose him. And Nathan? He wasn't just her partner. He was her equal. Lucas remained in a remote rehabilitation center. Over time, he started writing letters. But Olivia never opened them. Not out of anger, but because she knew some doors need to stay closed. For Lucas, the past was now just a shadow. One crisp autumn day, Olivia returned alone to the ruins of the old estate. Weeds had taken over. The windows were just empty frames now. The walls, once filled with laughter, whispered only to the wind. From her coat pocket, she pulled out a small, handwritten letter, her father's words, in fading ink. Standing before a crumbling stone wall, she took a deep breath and read aloud. "Power doesn't lie in what you hold. It lies in the courage to let go and begin again." And in that moment, Olivia understood. True strength didn't live in mansions or last names. It lived in those who stood back up, who rose from ash and chose to walk forward. And now she walked, on her own path, in her own name, without fear. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. With every new episode, we follow the path of rebirth together.